this information. Intelligent design, are we hybrids? Recently, they looked at Akhenaten, who was a pharaoh in the 14th century. What they discovered was, after a 7-year study, anomalies in the pharaoh Akhenaten. A small fragment of desiccated brain tissue of his Akhenaten's DNA suggests he had a higher cranial capacity because of the need to house a larger cortex. The gene called CPXAC5, responsible for cortex growth, suggests an anomaly which is visible in the image below. And then we discover not only that, but this too. 2 microscopic samples left of Akhenaten and right the mummy of the same age. Akhenaten's bone is denser and fundamentally different to the right normal bone in another of a similar mummy. So what's going on there? What are we seeing here? And now I'm going to take you to another property of DNA. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to show you how DNA is the key, as far as I'm concerned, to what's happening now. Russian scientists found DNA can be influenced and reprogrammed by words and frequencies. It's not just responsible for the construction of our body, but also in communication follows the same rules as language, but just requires the right frequencies to be reprogrammed. In other words, they don't have to splice out any kinds of faulty genes. They just need the right human language, frequency. Living chromosomes function like a holographic computer and using endogenous DNA laser radiation are able to modulate certain frequency patterns onto laser ray and influence the DNA frequency and thus the genetic information itself. Esoteric and spiritual teachers have known our body is programmable by language, words, and thought. Now it's been scientifically explained, and there's another level to this that I will go into. DNA follows regular grammar and set rules. So human language will interact with living DNA substance, and they react to laser modulated rays to radio waves if the proper frequencies are used. So again, this is why affirmations and hypnosis can have such a powerful effect on human bodies, and why we are so influenced by what is said to us, both positive and negative. And some of you may be aware of Dr. Bruce Lipton. I met this wonderful gentleman in Montreal, lots of years ago now. But what was fascinating was something also very important. We are not just DNA determined. Human experience and attitude also alters DNA expression. So it's all about, on this level, about belief. Epigenetic control reveals that the environmental information alters the readout of the genes without changing the underlying DNA sequence code. And from a single gene, epigenetic regulation can provide for 30,000 different variations of expression. So whatever you're believing or your reality is will actually alter the actual variations of the expression of how you behave. And here was a very interesting fact. Words can change cactus DNA. And this is quite some time ago now. This gentleman found that the secret of improved plant breeding actually is love. He said this: in experiments to make a spineless cacti, he told the plants, "You don't need your protective thorns, I will protect you." And gradually the useful plant emerged was a thornless variety. What it's saying is how powerful words and frequencies are. And this is, I'm leading into understanding frequency and all the other things that are going on with those that are having contact. But the most important part of DNA that I want to really state is this. Multidimensional DNA produces magnetized wormholes to transmit information from outside space and time to our consciousness. A biological internet, a holographic computer. And this is what they have discovered, that living chromosomes function like this computer, using endogenous DNA laser radiation, and can modulate certain frequency patterns onto a laser ray and influence the DNA frequency and thus the genetic code. They cause disturbing patterns in a vacuum, producing magnetized wormholes, microscopic equivalents of the so-called Einstein-Rosen bridges in the vicinity of black holes, tunnel connections between entirely different areas of the universe through which information can be transmitted outside space-time. DNA attracts the information and passes it onto our consciousness, a multidimensional biological link to consciousness itself. All those feelings, knowings, senses that you get, start listening to them. This explains precognitive insights, clairvoyance, intuition, telepathy, past lives, spontaneous and remote acts of healing, self-healing, remote influencing, even weather patterns. And we can all do it, every single one of us.
This is Dabu7. I want to share with you some information on the secrets of vibration. And I think you'll find this pretty interesting. What they've done is they've tricked the whole world, and they have been using a frequency in music that is not natural. It's not harmonic. It doesn't vibrate good, so to speak. What they've done is they've took this A equals 432 Hz and changed it to 440. So what should be, as you can see right here, has been changed. Now, what is significant about this is that the 432 is said to be mathematically consistent with the patterns of the universe. It vibrates. It connects with all of this. And the ancients, they used this. Everything was aligned to this. And you can see when you use the 432, this is what you get. The 440, this is what you get. Just as an example. So what they've done is this 432, which vibrates, here's some more examples, and connects with all these beautiful things, it's been removed. You can see the vibrations. Love, it manifests itself in the beauty. It's real. It's energy. And this vibration is real, and they know it. And what they've done is they've removed a key part of this. This is connected with healing as well. Consciousness. But they've removed it and replaced it with a duller, unnatural frequency. So, I think it's important that people understand this. This is what they're doing. When you hear people start talking about frequency, ringing of the ears, you might think that they're talking some madness or they're crazy. It's real deal. They're doing this using vibration. Like I said, we're 70% water. They can create these patterns with frequency in water, in molecules. Can you imagine DNA? You can change people, control people, their consciousness, their moods, the way of being. They know this. And since 1953, this has been in place. I say, you talk about it, you turn people onto this information, and we get this changed. And we get aligned back to the real, true, natural, beautiful, loving, conscious frequency. Or you can stay dumbed down in control. It's up to you. But now you know at least this is what they're doing. It's one of the ways they're doing it. And it's sad that even the music you listen to, the harmonics, the vibrations, are all being manipulated around you, and this is proof. Very interesting information nonetheless. I'll leave a link.
In the 1950s and 60s, the CIA began work to find means for influencing human cognition, emotion, and behavior. This research has included the use of wireless directed electromagnetic energy under the heading of information warfare and non-lethal weapons. New technological capabilities have been developed in black budget projects over the last few decades, including the ability to influence human emotion, disrupt thought, and present excruciating pain through the manipulation of magnetic fields. The U.S. military and intelligence agencies have at their disposal frightful new weapons that have likely already been covertly used and or tested on humans both here and abroad. With the signing of the Military Commission Act of 2006, the new official U.S. policy is the torture and suspension of due process are acceptable for anyone the President deems to be a terrorist or a supporter. This act is the overt denial of the inalienable rights of human beings, propagated by our Declaration of Independence and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Ratified by the U.S. Congress, specifies in its preamble that recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace. This means that humans have the inalienable right to be able to freely think their own thoughts and discover their own truths. This most fundamental human right is now under threat by individuals that would want to limit our freedom of thought. That is what is posed by these new EMF weapons and subsequent technologies. The right of each individual to think independently and autonomously, to use the full spectrum of his or her mind, and to engage in multiple modes of thought. Without accurate representations, we cannot make independently informed choices. It is imperative that the human body and mind be considered sacrosanct. To invade a person's body without their consent is an egregious human rights crime. Some of the effects of electromagnetic frequency can, may, and will include a burning sensation akin to touching a hot skillet over your entire body. Simultaneously, you may hear terrifying, nauseating screams, which, while not produced externally, fills your brain with overwhelming thoughts of disruption and chaos. Not only are both of these phenomena currently possible, but designs for more powerful EMF technologies receive continuous funding from the U.S. government daily. Today, the combination with the political climate and the technological capabilities presents a condition in which widespread manipulation of not only the flow of information through the media, but also the manipulation of the emotional states and a cognitive ability in large populations could be achieved through the use of EMF technology. Previous human rights and cognitive liberty violations are evidenced in the archives of the CIA and FBI records. One in particular is the infamous MK Ultra program, and then also the grim records of harassment and subversion uncovered in the COINTELPRO program enforced through the 1950s and into the 1970s. Psychological warfare, information war, and mind control may seem to be an exotic topic, but the impact of these technologies and techniques is profound. Our minds are being impacted through a long-standing series of programs aimed at manipulating public opinion through intelligence agencies, think tanks, and the media. Take back your mind. Research all this information. Thank you.
And remember this clip, by the way, from the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise? Check this out. Okay, so in this movie, the characters used guns that fired sonic waves instead of bullets. It was, of course, set in the future. The future is here now. In today's Big Eye, this is where we talk about it, ideas, innovation, bullets made of sound waves that can be used by the military and in medicine. Here to explain her design is Chiara Del Rio. She's an assistant professor of aeronautics and applied physics for the California Institute of Technology. Chiara, is that an exaggeration to say that what is depicted in that movie is actually possible?
Hi, Ali. Well, that's quite still away from where we are right now, but sound bullets do exist, and that's part of what we've been doing so far.
What is a sound bullet? What is it?
Right, so what we define as a sound bullet is a compact burst of energy. a single pulse of acoustic energy or sound that can form and travel in a host material, for example, air or water or a solid medium. See, usually acoustic waves travel in trains of crests of high pressure and low pressure regions that follow each other, similar to what you see waves in an ocean or ripples in a pond. What we do instead is to create a bullet which is consistent of only a single pulse, a single pressure, high pressure region that can achieve very, very large amplitudes.
What can the military, for instance, do, or what can people who, what can you do with the sound bullet?
The sound bullets can replace many of today's technology in terms of controlling acoustic waves. And acoustic waves are not used just by the military, but for example, there are many biomedical applications like ultrasonic imaging or surgery, for example, to remove kidney stones or image babies in the belly of a mother. At the same time, you can use acoustic waves to test, for example, integrity of materials and structures like cracks in a pipeline or the integrity of an airplane wing. Sound bullets have a much larger amplitude, which means they can improve the signal-to-noise ratio, and they have a much more compactly support wave, which means they can achieve shorter pulses and better resolution than current technologies. These, together with being extremely controllable, would allow better tunability and, for example, scanning ability of images that people are desire to acquire, for example.
I want to show you a picture that we have here, a graphic that we've got, which shows one of these sound bullets being used on someone's brain. What are the medical applications of this?
So that's a schematic diagram that represents one of the potential applications of our technology, the idea of being able to focus sound in a very narrow spot and with much higher precision and higher energy, so that you can either, for example, image interior parts of the human body, or focus energy so that you can increase the temperature and, for example, cause death of undesired cells, like, for example, tumor cells. This is a technique already used in technology today and called hyperthermia.
All right, and finally, where you said we're some distance away from what I showed in that movie clip. Where are we with this? I mean, obviously, we're not looking to invent a gun, but where are we in the process of using this ability to have a sound go in a bullet as opposed to a wave?
So right now we are at the proof of principle stage. In our laboratory, we have developed the fundamental theoretical and computer simulation, as well as an experimental proof of principle for the creation of the sound bullets, which means we've been able to test and demonstrate their feasibility. And experimentally in the lab, it was done in solid media. We are now bringing the technology forward, trying to redesign a lens that's more automated, more controllable and scalable, and also that is capable of generating bullets that travel in water, for example, and fluids, so that they're closer to applications, for example, for underwater detection of vehicles similar to sonars, or in the human body.
Very, very interesting. We'll watch this with great interest. Chiara Dario is an assistant professor of aeronautics and applied physics at the California Institute of Technology. By the way, she was named one of Brilliant 10 by Popular Science magazine. Thanks so much for being with us. We love having brilliant people on here. It makes us feel a little bit smarter.
Thank you for having me.
For anybody who doesn't think I'm all that smart, I confirmed it again. For the second day in a row, I have now said that the winter solstice is the longest day of the year, when in fact it is the opposite. It is the shortest day of the year. But you know what I meant.
The film you're about to see has no characters. If you spare a little of your imagination, it is a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter. everything owes its existence solely and completely to sound.
Picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Close my eyes. She's somehow closer now. Softly smile, I know she must